Pahan Wu walked into the classroom and felt every alien eye turn toward him. The silence was thick and heavy. He was used to this by now. 3 months at the Galactic Technical Institute, and still the other students acted like he might explode at any moment. He was not that scary, he thought. Sure, he was tall by galactic standards. His muscles were bigger than most aliens had ever seen. His bones were thick and strong, but he was just a regular engineering student from Earth trying to learn like everyone else. The classroom was huge, with seats designed for 12 different alien species. Some seats had special air bubbles, others had water tanks, a few had crystal platforms that hummed with energy. Han Wu's seat was just a normal chair, but it looked tiny under his frame. Professor Harks floated into the room on his anti-gravity platform. The old Zentari looked like a wise turtle with soft, wrinkled skin. His 4 arms moved slowly as he arranged his teaching materials. The Zentari were known across the galaxy for being peaceful and smart. They had not fought a war in over 1,000 years. "Good morning, students," Professor Harks said in his calm voice. "Today we begin your final project for advanced xenoengineering." A nervous buzz filled the room. Final projects at the Institute were famous for being almost impossible. Many students failed and had to repeat the year. Han Wu looked around at his classmates. There was Kira Vel, a Velanite who looked like she was made of living crystal. Her body was clear and sparkled in the light. She sat very still because any hard bump could crack her delicate form. When she spoke, it sounded like soft music. Next, to her was Thex Moran, a nebuloid who looked like a cloud of purple gas held together by an energy field. He floated in his special containment suit, always worried about something. His species lived in the empty space between stars, so everything on planets seemed dangerous to them. Yila Crown sat in her water tank, her blue-green skin gleaming. She was from the deep oceans of Aquatica, where the pressure could crush most spaceships. Her people were considered tough by galactic standards, but even she looked nervous when Han Wu was around. "Your assignment," Professor Harks continued, "is to design a life support system, but not just any system. This one must keep multiple alien species alive in 3 different extreme environments at the same time." He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed 3 horrible places that no sane person would ever want to visit. First environment, the crushing depths of the gas giant Typhon Major. The pressure there is 3,000 times greater than standard atmosphere. The gases are poison to most life forms. The hologram shifted to show swirling clouds of deadly gas, with pressure readings that made several students gasp. Second environment, the surface of Radiation Prime, a planet orbiting a pulsar star. The radiation there can kill most species in seconds. The temperature changes from freezing to boiling every few minutes. Now the hologram showed a twisted landscape under a spinning star that shot out deadly beams of energy. Some students covered their eyes. Third environment, the deep vacuum of the void sector, where space pirates dump their victims. No air, no heat, no protection from cosmic radiation. Nothing can survive there for more than a few heartbeats. The hologram showed empty black space, so cold and empty that it hurt to look at. Professor Harks folded his 4 arms. "Your system must keep a team of mixed species alive and working in all 3 places. You have 8 weeks to design, build, and test your solution." The classroom was silent. Several students started calculating on their tablets, their faces growing pale as they saw the numbers. "This is impossible," whispered a crystalline student in the front row. "The math doesn't work. You cannot make one system handle such different extremes." "Maybe that's the point," said another student. "Maybe. We're supposed to prove it cannot be done." Han Wu listened to the worried chatter around him. He pulled out his tablet and started reading the assignment details. The requirements were brutal, but something about them seemed familiar. Extreme pressure, deadly radiation, freezing vacuum. These were just Tuesday on Earth. "Teams will be assigned by random selection," Professor Harks announced. "No changes will be allowed." A lottery system appeared on the main screen. Names flashed and sorted into groups. Han Wu watched as other students held their breath, hoping they would not be paired with the human. The screen stopped flashing. Han Wu's name appeared next to three others: Kira Vel, Thex Morin, and Yila Crown. Kira made a sound like breaking glass. It was not a happy sound. Thex's gas cloud turned a darker purple, which meant he was scared. Even Yila, who was supposed to be tough, sank deeper into her water tank. I cannot work with a Deathworlder, Kira whispered, her crystal body shaking. What if he touches me? What if he breaks me by accident? Humans are dangerous, Thex agreed, his voice muffled by his containment suit. My people say they solve problems by hitting them with rocks. Han Wu felt bad for his new teammates. He knew they were scared, but he also knew the stories about humans were mostly wrong. Yes, Earth was a dangerous planet. Yes, humans were stronger than most aliens, but that did not make them monsters. We should meet tomorrow, Han Wu said quietly. In the materials lab. I want to look at what we have to work with. Tomorrow? Kira's musical voice went high with panic. But we need weeks of calculations first. We need to prove if this is even possible. We need to understand the math, Thex added. The theory must come before any building. Han Wu nodded politely. Math is good, but sometimes you need to get your hands dirty to really understand a problem. Yila spoke for the first time, her voice bubbling through the water. My people are engineers too. We build cities on the ocean floor, where the pressure is crushing. But even we need months of planning before we build anything. Planning is smart, Han Wu agreed, but I want to see what materials we can use. Maybe there are options we have not thought of yet. The other students around them were already forming study groups discussing complex equations and theoretical frameworks. Han Wu's teammates looked at each other nervously. Fine, Kira said finally. We will meet tomorrow. But please, be careful around me. I am not as strong as you. None of us are, Thex muttered. As the class ended, Han Wu gathered his things, slowly. He heard other students whispering about his team's bad luck. Some made bets about how quickly his teammates would ask for transfers to other groups. But Han Wu was not worried. He had looked at the assignment requirements again, and they reminded him of something. Back on Earth, his grandfather had been a deep-sea welder. The old man had worked in crushing pressure, deadly cold, and poisonous gases. He had always said the same thing. Simple solutions work best when everything is trying to kill you. Han Wu smiled as he left the classroom. His alien classmates saw 3 impossible environments that no life support system could handle. He saw 3 problems that needed practical solutions. Tomorrow he would show them that sometimes the best way to solve an impossible problem was to stop thinking about it as impossible. After all, humans had been solving impossible problems since they first decided to leave the trees and walk upright. This was just one more challenge, and Han Wu was ready for it. The other students were already talking about mathematical proofs and theoretical limits. Han Wu was thinking about materials, backup systems, and what his grandfather would have done. It was going to be an interesting 8 weeks. The next morning, Han Wu arrived at the materials lab early. The room was huge, filled with strange tools and machines from across the galaxy. Most of the equipment looked delicate and expensive. Warning signs in 12 different languages covered every surface. He was looking through bins of metal pieces when his teammates arrived. Kira moved very slowly, her crystal body catching the light like a prism. Thex floated behind her in his protective suit, staying as far from Han Wu as possible. Yila had brought a portable water tank on wheels so she could move around the lab. You are already here, Kira said, her voice like wind chimes. Have you been calculating the theoretical requirements? I looked at what we need to build, Han Wu replied, holding up a piece of strange blue metal. This stuff is interesting. It gets stronger when you heat it up. Thex's purple gas cloud shivered. You cannot just heat things up. The safety protocols require approval forms. And calculations. Many calculations. Han Wu nodded. Safety is important, but sometimes you need to test things to understand how they work. He walked over to a small furnace in the corner. It was designed for melting delicate alien materials, At very low temperatures, Han-Wu started adjusting the controls. "What are you doing?" Yila asked, her voice bubbling with worry. "Making a small test piece," Han-Wu said. He put the blue metal into the furnace and turned up the heat much higher than the safe setting. All three aliens backed away quickly. Kira's crystal body started, flashing warning colors. "That temperature will destroy the metal. The furnace might explode." "Maybe," Han-Wu said calmly. "Or maybe we will learn something new." The metal began to glow. Instead of melting like his teammates expected, it started to change. The surface became smoother and harder. Han-Wu watched the readings on his tablet, making notes. "Impossible," Thex whispered. "The metal should be liquid by now." "Earth metals do this too," Han-Wu explained. "Heat makes some things stronger, not weaker. My father works in a steel factory. He taught me that you have to stress test everything." He pulled the glowing metal out with a pair of heavy tongs. His teammates watched in horror as he dunked it into a bucket of freezing water. The metal hissed and steamed, but it did not crack. "Now it is stronger than before," Han-Wu said, examining the piece. "We can use this for the pressure parts of our system." Kira made a sound like tinkling bells. It was the sound her people made when they were very confused. "But the safety manual says never to heat this metal above level 3. You used level 9. "Safety manuals are written by people who do not want to break things," Han-Wu said. "But sometimes you need to break things to understand them." He picked up another piece of metal and put it in the furnace. This time, he heated it even more. His teammates moved to the far side of the room. "This is madness," Yila said. "On my world, we test everything in computer simulations first. We never risk destroying expensive materials." "Computer simulations are good," Han-Wu agreed. "But they can only tell you what they are programmed to know. Real testing tells you what actually happens." The second piece of metal did melt, becoming a puddle of silver liquid. Han-Wu made more notes on his tablet. "See? Now we know the real limits," he said. "The first metal can handle extreme heat. The second metal cannot. This is useful information." He spent the next hour testing different materials. He froze some in liquid nitrogen, heated others until they glowed, and crushed small pieces in a pressure machine. His teammates watched from a safe distance, amazed that nothing had exploded yet. "On Earth," Han-Wu explained while testing a rubber-like material, "we have a saying. If you want to know how strong something is, you have to try to break it." "But what if you break something important?" Kira asked. "Then you learn what not to use," Han-Wu said simply. "Better to break a small test piece now than have your life support system fail when people need it." He pulled out a sketch pad and started drawing. His teammates came closer, curious despite their fear. "What is that?" Thex asked. "A basic design," Han-Wu said. 3 separate chambers, each one designed for a different environment. But they all connect through these tubes here. The drawing was simple but clever. Each chamber could handle one extreme environment, but they shared air, power, and water through a network of connecting pipes. If one chamber fails, Han-Wu continued, the other 2 can keep working. People can move between chambers through these airlocks. Yila studied the drawing. "This is actually smart. But how do you handle the pressure differences? The math is very complex." Han-Wu smiled. "We build pressure valves, like the ones on submarines back home." "Submarines?" Kira asked. "Ships that go underwater," Han-Wu explained. "On Earth, we have been building them for hundreds of years. They have to handle crushing pressure just like your gas giant environment." He started gathering materials from around the lab, pipes, valves, seals, and strange alien components that his teammates had never seen used together. "You cannot just combine random parts," Thex protested. "Each species uses different engineering standards. Nothing will fit together." Han-Wu held up 2 pipes that were clearly designed for different alien technologies. "They do not fit now," he said, "but we can make adapters." He found a machine that could cut and shape metal. Within an hour, he had made several connector pieces that allowed the different alien technologies to work together. "Incredible," Yila whispered. "You made incompatible systems compatible." Everything is compatible if you are creative enough, Hanwoo said. My grandfather used to fix cars with parts from washing machines. He said good engineering is about solving problems, not following rules. As the day went on, Hanwoo built a small prototype of his design. It was not pretty, but it worked. He created 3 tiny chambers, each one designed to handle a different extreme environment. Now we test it, he said. His teammates watched nervously as Hanwoo connected the prototype to testing equipment. He subjected the first chamber to crushing, pressure that should have flattened it instantly. Instead, it held firm. The materials we tested this morning, he explained. The heat-treated metal is perfect for pressure resistance. The second chamber was flooded with radiation that would kill most life forms. The walls glowed, but did not break down. Lead-lined with that crystal mesh Kira suggested, Hanwoo said. Blocks 90% of the radiation. The third chamber was exposed to the cold vacuum of space. Instead of exploding outward like most containers would, it maintained perfect pressure inside. Triple wall design with flexible seals, Hanwoo noted. Even if the outer wall cracks, the inner walls keep working. All 3 chambers stayed connected through his network of tubes and valves. Air flowed between them. Power was shared. The whole system worked as one unit, even though each part faced completely different dangers. It works, Kira said, her voice full of wonder. You built something that actually works. It is just a small prototype, Hanwoo said modestly. We still need to make it bigger and add more safety features. More safety features? Thex asked. It already survived tests that should have destroyed it. Hanwoo smiled. On Earth, we have another saying. If it can survive one disaster, make sure it can survive 3 disasters at the same time. He started making notes for improvements. Backup systems, redundant connections, and fail-safe mechanisms that would keep people alive, even if most of the equipment broke. His teammates looked at each other with new understanding. The human was not reckless or dangerous. He was just used to building things that had to work in impossible conditions. Tomorrow, Hanwoo said, packing up his tools, we start building the full-size version. Tomorrow? Kira asked. But we have only been working for 1 day. Should we not spend more time on calculations? Calculations are important, Hanwoo agreed. But building teaches you things that math cannot. We will calculate as we build. As they left the lab, his teammates were quiet. They had expected the human to be dangerous and unpredictable. Instead, they found someone who solved problems in ways they had never imagined. Hanwoo, Yila said as they reached the door. How did you learn to build like this? Hanwoo thought for a moment. On Earth, everything is trying to kill you. The weather, the animals, the ground under your feet. So we learned to build things that do not break easily. And if they do break? Kira asked. Then we build them so they break safely, Hanwoo replied. And we always have a backup plan. Walking back to their dormitories, the 3 aliens realized something important. They were not working with a dangerous Deathworlder. They were working with someone who had spent his whole life learning how to survive in a universe that did not care about safety manuals. For the first time since the project began, they felt like they might actually succeed. Word about Hanwoo's impossible prototype spread through the institute like wildfire. By the 3rd day, curious students started showing up at the materials lab during Hanwoo's work sessions. At first, only a few brave students peeked through the lab windows. They watched Hanwoo work with materials at temperatures and pressures that made their safety instructors faint. But instead of explosions and disasters, they saw controlled experiments and working prototypes. Is it true the human made a functioning, multi-environment system? Asked Zex, a tall arachnoid student with 8 mechanical arms. His species was famous for precision engineering, but even they needed months of planning for complex projects. I saw it myself, Kira said, her crystal body now glowing with excitement instead of fear. He heated metal beyond safety limits and made it stronger. He combined incompatible technologies and made them work together. More students began gathering outside the lab. Soon, Han Wu had an audience of 20 aliens watching his every move through the reinforced windows. "This is getting strange," Thex whispered to Yila. "Why are they all staring?" "Because what we are doing should be impossible," Yila replied. She had been thinking about Han Wu's methods for days. Her own people were excellent engineers, but they would never dare test materials to destruction like the human did. Han Wu ignored the audience and continued building. He was working on the full-size version of his life support system now. The 3 main chambers were nearly complete, each one designed to handle extreme conditions that would kill most galactic species instantly. "Hand me that pressure gauge," he said to Kira. She passed him the delicate instrument, no longer afraid that he might accidentally crush it. Over the past few days, she had learned that Han Wu's movements were precise and controlled, despite his strength. "The pressure readings are beyond normal limits," she noted, looking at the display. "Normal for who?" Han Wu asked with a smile. "On Earth, deep-sea workers handle pressures like this every day." He adjusted a valve, and the pressure stabilized at a level that would flatten most alien habitats. But his chamber held firm, the specially treated walls showing no signs of stress. Outside the lab, the crowd of watching students grew larger. Some had brought their professors, who stood with worried expressions as they watched the human casually violate every safety protocol they knew. "Someone should stop this," muttered Professor Vex, a rigid geometric whose species followed rules with religious devotion. "The human is creating unsafe conditions." But Professor Harks, who had been watching quietly, shook his ancient head. "Look at his results, not his methods. The system is working under conditions that our best theories say are impossible." Inside the lab, Han Wu began testing his radiation shielding. He placed a powerful radiation source next to his second chamber, one that would cook most organic life in seconds. "Radiation levels are at maximum danger," Thex announced, his purple gas darkening with worry. "Perfect," Han Wu replied. "Now, we see if our shielding really works." He activated sensors inside the chamber. The readings showed safe, livable conditions despite the deadly radiation just outside the walls. "How?" asked Yila. "The shielding should not be that effective. The math does not work." Han Wu pointed to the chamber walls. 3 different types of shielding layered together. Each one stops different types of radiation. Together, they stop everything. "But that is so wasteful," said a voice from the doorway. "Why use 3 types when theory says one should be enough?" Han Wu turned to see Dr. Mirren, a senior engineering professor whose textbooks were used throughout the galaxy. The elderly Zentari had joined the crowd of observers. "Because theory and reality are different things," Han Wu replied politely. "Theory assumes perfect conditions. Reality is messy." Dr. Mirren stepped into the lab, studying Han Wu's work with sharp eyes. "Your approach seems very primitive. All this physical testing instead of mathematical modeling." "Math is important," Han Wu agreed, "but it can only tell you what should happen. Building tells you what actually happens." To demonstrate, he started the most dangerous test yet. He connected all 3 chambers together and subjected them to different extreme conditions at the same time. The pressure chamber faced crushing forces. The radiation chamber was flooded with deadly energy. The vacuum chamber was exposed to the cold emptiness of space. The watching crowd held their breath. This was the moment when any normal system would fail catastrophically. Instead, Han Wu's system hummed along peacefully. Air flowed between chambers. Power systems remained stable. The life support readings showed perfect conditions inside each chamber despite the hellish environments outside. "Impossible," whispered Dr. Mirren. "The theoretical stress calculations alone should have caused multiple cascade failures." Han Wu checked his tablet and made a few small adjustments to the system. "It is working as designed. Each chamber can fail partially and the others will compensate." "Fail partially?" Dr. Mirren looked confused. "You designed it to fail?" "I designed it to fail safely," Han Wu corrected. "On Earth, we assume everything will break eventually. The question is whether it breaks safely or catastrophically. Demonstrated by deliberately damaging one of the pressure seals in the first chamber, Instead of explosive decompression that would kill everyone inside, backup systems activated automatically. The damaged section sealed itself off while alternate pathways maintained life support. "You broke it on purpose," said Kira, amazed. "And it kept working." "That is the point," Han Wu said. "If I do not know how it fails, I cannot fix it when it does." The crowd outside the lab had grown to over 50 students and professors. They pressed against the windows, trying to understand what they were seeing. Professor Harks finally entered the lab himself. "Mr. Han Wu, I need to ask you something important. How did you know to build redundant failure systems? This concept is not taught in any of our engineering courses." Han Wu thought for a moment. "On Earth, redundancy is not optional. Our buildings must survive earthquakes, storms, and floods. Our vehicles must work when parts break. Our computers must keep running during power failures." "But that seems so inefficient," said Dr. Mirren. "Why not just build things strong enough that they never break?" "Because strong enough is a guess," Han Wu replied. "You can calculate how strong something should be, but the universe does not care about your calculations. It will find new ways to break your designs." He pointed to his life support system, still running perfectly despite the damage he had inflicted on it. "This system has already survived 3 different types of failures. It will probably survive many more because it was designed to expect the unexpected." The revelation hit the watching academics like a thunderbolt. All their engineering education focused on preventing failure through precise calculations and perfect construction. The humans' approach accepted failure as inevitable and built systems that continued working despite damage. "This changes everything," Professor Hark said quietly. "If we could apply these principles to starship construction, space station design, planetary habitats—" "Exactly," Han Wu said. "That is why I wanted to build this project. Not just to pass a class, but to show that some problems need different solutions." By the end of the day, news of Han Wu's success had reached the highest levels of the institute. Department heads called emergency meetings. Engineering professors canceled their lectures to discuss the implications. "The human has revolutionized failure analysis in one afternoon," Dr. Mirren told a gathering of senior faculty. "His system violates every efficiency principle we teach, yet it outperforms anything we could design." Meanwhile, Han Wu continued, working on improvements. He was adding more backup systems, alternate power sources, and emergency protocols that would keep people alive, even if most of the equipment stopped working. "Are you not tired?" Kira asked. "You have been working for 12 hours straight." "This is fun," Han Wu replied honestly. "On Earth, we call this type of work over-engineering. Most people think it is wasteful, but it saves lives when everything goes wrong." Thex floated closer to examine the latest modifications. "You added even more redundant systems. How many backups does one machine need?" "As many as possible," Han Wu said. "My grandfather always said that the backup to your backup should have a backup." That evening, as Han Wu finally left the lab, he found Professor Harks waiting outside. "Mr. Han Wu," the old professor said, "I have been teaching engineering for 60 years. I thought I understood the principles of safe design. Today you showed me that I have been thinking too small. I just build things the way my people taught me." Han Wu replied modestly. "That is exactly the point," Professor Harks said. "Your people learned these lessons because they had to. The rest of the galaxy has been too comfortable, too safe. We forgot that the universe is dangerous." As Han Wu walked back to his dormitory, he passed groups of students discussing his project in excited whispers. Some were already planning to visit the lab tomorrow to see his work for themselves. He smiled to himself. His grandfather would have been proud. The old man always said that the best way to teach was to show people what was possible when you stopped being afraid of getting your hands dirty. The presentation hall was packed. Every seat was filled with students, professors, and visiting engineers from across the galaxy. Some had traveled for days just to see the humans' impossible project with their own eyes. Han Wu stood quietly, backstage with his teammates, checking his notes one last time. He wore simple work clothes while other students presented in formal academic robes. His life support system sat on the demonstration platform, looking rough and practical compared to the sleek theoretical models other teams had built. "I am nervous," Kira whispered. her crystal body flickering with anxious light. There are so many important people out there. Do not worry, Han Wu said calmly. We built something that works. That is all that matters. Yila adjusted her portable water tank nervously. The Grand Engineer of the Aquatic Alliance is in the audience. If we fail in front of her, my whole species will be embarrassed. We will not fail, Thek said with surprising confidence. Over the past weeks, working with Han Wu had changed him. The nervous nebuloid now trusted human engineering more than his own species' careful calculations. Professor Harks walked onto the stage to introduce their team. Ladies, gentlemen, and distinguished beings, our next presentation comes from Team 7. They were given what many consider to be an impossible assignment: create a life support system for multiple extreme environments simultaneously. A murmur ran through the audience. Everyone knew about the assignment. Most teams had presented theoretical papers explaining why such a system could not exist. Team 7 has taken a different approach, Professor Harks continued. Instead of proving impossibility, they have built a working prototype. The murmur became excited chatter. Some audience members leaned forward in their seats. Please welcome Kiravel, Thexmoran, Yilacrown, and Han Wu. They walked onto the stage together. Han Wu pushed a cart carrying his life support system while his teammates followed. The audience fell silent, staring at the human who had supposedly achieved the impossible. In the front row sat the galaxy's most famous engineers, Dr. Stellar Mex, who designed the great space cities, Engineer Prime Quantum, who built the hyperspace gates, Grand Engineer Fluid Crown, leader of the Aquatic Alliance's most ambitious projects. Good morning, Han Wu said simply. We were asked to build a life support system that could work in 3 deadly environments, so we did. No fancy introduction, no complex theory. Just a statement of fact that made several professors blink in surprise. Kira stepped forward, her voice clear and musical. Our system uses redundant architecture with failure-safe protocols. Each environment chamber is designed to handle extreme conditions while maintaining life support through interconnected backup systems. She had learned to explain Han Wu's intuitive engineering in academic terms. Her confidence had grown enormously over the past weeks. The pressure chamber, Yila continued, can withstand forces that would crush standard habitats. The radiation chamber blocks deadly energy while maintaining perfect internal conditions. The vacuum chamber maintains pressure and temperature in the emptiness of space. Thex floated forward in his containment suit. But the real innovation is the failure management system. When parts break, the system adapts and continues working. Failure management? Asked Dr. Stellar Mex from the audience. You designed it to fail? We designed it to fail safely, Han Wu replied. Everything breaks eventually. The question is whether your system dies when that happens, or keeps protecting the people inside. He activated the demonstration controls. The 3 chambers of his life support system came online, each one showing perfect internal conditions on the display screens. Now we test it, Han Wu said. The audience watched in fascination as he began subjecting each chamber to extreme conditions. The pressure chamber faced forces that would flatten most starships. The radiation chamber was flooded with energy that could cook organic matter in seconds. The vacuum chamber was exposed to the cold emptiness that had killed countless space travelers. All 3 chambers maintained perfect life support conditions. Impressive, said Engineer Prime Quantum. But these are controlled conditions. What happens when unexpected failures occur? Good question, Han Wu replied. Thex, please activate Disaster Scenario 1. Thex pressed a button on his control tablet. Suddenly, the pressure chamber's main support beam cracked with a loud bang. Warning alarms should have sounded. Emergency evacuation protocols should have activated. Instead, backup supports deployed automatically. The chamber's shape changed slightly, but the internal pressure remained stable. The main structural support just failed, Han Wu explained, calmly. But the system detected the failure and compensated. People inside would feel a small vibration. Nothing more. The audience murmured in amazement. Grand Engineer Fluid Crown leaned forward with intense interest. Disaster Scenario 2. Hanwoo continued. This time, the radiation chamber's primary shielding failed. Deadly energy poured through gaps that should have killed everyone inside instantly. But secondary and tertiary shielding layers activated, maintaining safe conditions inside the chamber. 2 of 3 radiation barriers failed, Hanwoo noted. The system is now running on backup shielding, but people inside are still perfectly safe. Impossible, whispered a professor in the back row. The mathematical probability of surviving such failures. Math assumes things will work as calculated, Hanwoo replied. Reality is different. We build for reality. For his final demonstration, Hanwoo triggered the most dangerous test of all. He activated Disaster Scenario 3, which simultaneously damaged all 3 chambers while cutting their main power supply. Warning lights flashed. Computer screens showed critical failures across every major system. By all academic theory, the life support system should have died instantly, killing anyone unlucky enough to be inside. Instead, emergency power activated. Backup systems took over from damaged primary systems. The chambers continued maintaining perfect life support conditions even as sparks flew from damaged components. Total system failure, Hanwoo announced cheerfully. Main power dead, primary systems destroyed, backup systems heavily damaged, and everyone inside is still breathing safely. The silence in the presentation hall was complete. Even the breathing apparatus of different alien species seemed quieter than usual. Dr. Stellar Mex stood up slowly. Young human, in 60 years of engineering, I have never seen anything like this. Your system just survived failures that should have been catastrophic. How is this possible? Hanwoo smiled. On Earth we have a saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. This system was built assuming everything would go wrong at the worst possible moment. But the resource cost, protested another engineer. All those backup systems, redundant components, extra shielding. It must be incredibly expensive and inefficient. How much does a life cost? Hanwoo asked simply. How much is it worth to make sure people survive when everything breaks? The question hung in the air. Engineers throughout the galaxy had spent centuries optimizing for efficiency, minimizing costs, and building just strong enough to meet calculated requirements. The human had built as if lives depended on his work surviving the unthinkable. There is another aspect to consider, said Grand Engineer Fluid Crown, standing up. This system is not just surviving failures. It is continuing to function. Your people could live and work in these chambers while repairs are made. Exactly, Hanwoo replied. Survival is not enough. People need to keep living, keep working, keep hoping. The system has to support life, not just preserve it. Kira stepped forward, her crystal body glowing with pride. Working with Hanwoo taught us that engineering is not about preventing failure. It is about accepting failure and building anyway. We learned that safety through control is limited, Yila added, but safety through resilience is limitless. The human approach, Thex concluded, assumes the universe is dangerous and builds accordingly. Our approach assumes the universe is safe and hopes for the best. Professor Harks walked back onto the stage. Questions for the team? Hands shot up throughout the audience. For the next hour, Hanwoo and his teammates answered questions about failure analysis, redundant design, and the philosophy of building for survival instead of efficiency. One final question, said Dr. Stellar Mex. Mr. Hanwoo, where did you learn to think this way? Hanwoo considered the question seriously. My grandfather was a deep-sea welder. He worked in crushing pressure and freezing water, fixing things that could not be allowed to fail. He taught me that when lives depend on your work, you build, it's stronger than it needs to be. And if it still breaks? Asked Engineer Prime Quantum. Then you build it so it breaks safely, Hanwoo replied. And you always have a plan for what to do next. The presentation ended with thunderous applause that lasted for several minutes. As Hanwoo and his teammates left the stage, they were surrounded by engineers wanting to examine their system more closely. But Hanwoo was already thinking about improvements for the next version. After all, if this system could survive 3 simultaneous disasters, the next one should probably survive 5. That was just how humans built things. 3 weeks after the presentation, everything at the Galactic Technical Institute had changed. Han Wu's demonstration had sent shockwaves through the academic community that reached every corner of known space. The morning news feeds were full of stories about the human engineering revolution. Universities across the galaxy were requesting copies of Han Wu's design plans. Several major corporations had offered him jobs with salaries that could buy small planets, but Han Wu was still in the same materials lab, working on his next project. "You could be rich and famous," Kira said, watching him test new metal combinations. Her crystal body now glowed with steady confidence instead of nervous fear. "Why are you still here building things?" "Because building things is fun," Han Wu replied simply. "Money is nice, but it does not solve engineering problems." His current project was even more ambitious than the first. He was designing a habitat that could be built on worlds that were completely hostile to life. Planets with poisonous air, crushing gravity, and temperatures that would kill most galactic species instantly. "The volcanic Deathworld project," Thex said, reading from Han Wu's notes. "You want to build cities on planets that are actively trying to kill everything on them. Those planets have valuable minerals," Han Wu explained. "If we can live there safely, we can mine resources that the galaxy desperately needs." Yila studied his preliminary designs from her water tank. "This is incredible work, but why do it as a school project? You could get funding from any government in the galaxy." "School projects are better," Han Wu said. "No bureaucrats telling us what we cannot do. No committees arguing about safety regulations. We just build what works." The lab door opened, and Professor Harks entered with a group of important-looking aliens. Han Wu recognized some of them from the presentation: Dr. Stellar Mex, Engineer Prime Quantum, and Grand Engineer Fluid Crown. "Mr. Han Wu," Professor Harks said, "these distinguished colleagues would like to discuss something important with you." Han Wu wiped his hands on a work towel and turned to face them. "How can I help you?" Dr. Stellar Mex stepped forward. "We have been studying your work for weeks. Your approach to engineering challenges everything we thought we knew about. Safe design. We want to offer you something special," Engineer Prime Quantum added. "A chance to revolutionize engineering education throughout the galaxy." Grand Engineer Fluid Crown activated a holographic display. "We are proposing the creation of the first human-alien collaborative engineering institute. You would be the founding director." The hologram showed plans for a massive facility where human and alien engineers could work together, sharing knowledge and developing new technologies. "It would be the most advanced research center in the galaxy," Dr. Stellar Mex explained. "Unlimited funding, the best equipment, and teams of the brightest minds from every species." Han Wu studied the hologram carefully. The proposed institute was impressive, with laboratories that could simulate any environment in the known universe. "What would we build there?" he asked. "Anything you want," Grand Engineer Fluid Crown replied. "Starships that can survive black holes, habitats for impossible worlds, life support systems for the deep void between galaxies." "The galaxy needs your knowledge," Engineer Prime Quantum said earnestly. "Human engineering principles could save millions of lives and open up resources we never thought we could reach." Han Wu looked at his teammates. Kira's crystal body was practically glowing with excitement. Thex was floating in rapid circles, which meant he was very interested. Yila was leaning forward in her water tank, her eyes bright with possibility. "What do you think?" Han Wu asked them. "It sounds amazing," Kira said. "We could teach the galaxy that there are better ways to build things, safer ways. We could show everyone that failure does not have to mean death," Thex added. "That systems can be designed to protect people even when everything goes wrong. My people need this knowledge," Yila said seriously. "We build cities on ocean floors where one mistake kills thousands. Your redundant safety systems could save so many lives." Han Wu nodded slowly. "I have one condition." "Name it," Dr. Stellar Mex said immediately. "This cannot be just about human engineering," Han Wu explained. "Every species has learned something from living in dangerous places. We need to combine all that knowledge, not just copy Earth methods. He pointed to Kira. Velonites know how to build with living crystal that repairs itself. That could revolutionize space habitats. He pointed to Thex. Nebuloids understand energy fields better than anyone. They could design containment systems we never imagined. He pointed to Yila. Aquatic species know pressure engineering that makes our submarines look like toys. They could build habitats in gas giants we thought were impossible to explore. You want to create truly collaborative engineering, Grand Engineer Fluid Crown said with understanding. Not human methods taught to aliens, but new methods created by humans and aliens working together. Exactly, Han Wu said. Earth taught us to build for survival, but other worlds taught their people different lessons. If we combine all that knowledge, we can build things that are better than anything any single species could create alone. The visiting engineers looked at each other with growing excitement. This was bigger than they had imagined. The Institute would need students from every species, Engineer Prime Quantum said. Young minds who can learn to think differently, and teachers who understand that safe engineering means building for the worst possible scenario, Dr. Stellar Mex added. When can we start? Han Wu asked. As soon as possible, Grand Engineer Fluid Crown replied. The galaxy faces challenges that our current engineering cannot solve. We need your approach to redundant safety systems and failure-resistant design. Over the following months, the Human-Alien Collaborative Engineering Institute became a reality. The facility was built on a neutral world at the center of the galaxy, where students and professors from every species could work together safely. Han Wu found himself teaching courses with names like Practical Failure Analysis and Building for Impossible Environments. His students included young engineers from species that had never heard of Earth, but who quickly learned to appreciate human over-engineering. Kira became a specialist in living crystal technology, developing self-repairing materials that could fix themselves faster than they could be damaged. Her breakthrough came when she combined human redundancy principles with velonite crystal growth patterns. Thex pioneered new energy containment methods that made fusion reactors safer than campfires. His species' natural understanding of gaseous states combined with human safety margins created power systems that could survive direct weapons hits and keep running. Yila designed pressure systems that could build cities in the crushing depths of gas giants. Her people's knowledge of deep ocean engineering, enhanced by human backup philosophies, opened up entire worlds for colonization. The Institute's first major project was a colony ship designed to carry mixed populations to dangerous worlds. It incorporated every principle Han Wu had demonstrated in his original classroom project. Scaled up to support thousands of beings, the ship had 7 different life support systems, each capable of supporting the entire population if the others failed. It had self-repairing hull sections, redundant power sources, and emergency protocols that assumed multiple catastrophic failures happening simultaneously. When the ship launched, carrying colonists to a world with crushing gravity and poisonous storms, Han Wu watched from the Institute's observation deck with his original teammates. We did it, Kira said, her crystal body glowing with satisfaction. We changed how the galaxy thinks about engineering. We taught them that the universe is dangerous, Thex agreed, but that does not mean we have to be afraid of it. We showed them how to build things that protect people instead of just working efficiently, Yila added. Han Wu smiled as the colony ship disappeared into hyperspace. Somewhere out there, it would face dangers that would have destroyed any conventional vessel, but it would survive because it was built by engineers who understood that failure was not a possibility to be prevented, but a certainty to be planned for. My grandfather would be proud, Han Wu said quietly. He always said that good engineering was about keeping people safe when everything went wrong. What is our next project? Kira asked. Han Wu pulled out his tablet, which was filled with sketches for even more ambitious designs. I was thinking about building a research station that could study the inside of stars. His teammates looked at each other and grinned. With human over-engineering and alien innovation combined, even the impossible seemed possible. After all, they had learned that the best way to tackle any impossible assignment was to assume it could be done, then figure out how to do it safely. That was just how the galaxy built things now.